Good morning. Happy Wednesday, and I am so glad that you're joining me on In the Flow with River. I thought that I would complete or conclude my series on the victim triangle with something a little bit different. I thought instead of doing a teaching more about the victim triangle, that instead I would share my experience of what my life was like before getting off of the victim triangle. So when I look back and I reflect about what life felt like for me, I was in a place where I thought I had a pretty good handle on things, because not only do I work as a therapist, so I'm always immersing myself in all of these books and sitting with clients and helping them, but I also had gone to therapy in the past and had wonderful therapists that I had worked with prior to Holly, who I've been working with now for the last, 6 years. And in all of that therapy, I was always able to focus on other people and their behaviors and what they were doing, as opposed to really looking at myself. And when I walked into Holly's office and I began the work, I had no idea that it was going to take the form that it did. I certainly had no idea that years later I would still be going and working, even though it's evolved into different stuff. But I didn't realize how lost I really was. So here's what my life really looked like. I didn't have healthy boundaries. I didn't know what healthy boundaries really were. I couldn't get a sense of what that really would look like. I could feel when somebody was crossing a boundary, because I'd get angry. I would feel that. But just knowing where my line was and what was okay with me and what was not okay with me, I didn't have any awareness around that. I was emotionally reactive. I was super, super sensitive, and I still am a really sensitive person. I think the difference is now that I know how to take care of my sensitive nature, as opposed to being reactive and a prisoner to it. I would take things so personally. I remember in one of my sessions, Holly got an index card and she wrote something out and she handed the card to me and she said, "Every time you get triggered or activated, I want you to look at this." And I'm looking at the card and it says, "Am I making someone else's behavior mean something about me?" Because that was at the core of what I was doing, was I was taking everything personally. Of course, I was not intending to do that, but that was my particular brand of what being on the triangle looked like. I took things personally. I would get defensive, reactionary. I always felt like I needed to explain myself. When I would try and stand up for myself, it was oftentimes emotionally driven, so it wasn't coming from a place of being grounded and clear and centered. It was trying to manage whatever emotions I was having, and keeping them down, but I was still reacting. I was still moving into perpetrator energy, and frequently I was the rescuer. I was always thinking, what can I do to fix this situation? How can I make it better? What can I do here? How can I change this? And it was all focusing on things outside of myself, not really what do I need to change about me. The focus was so much of my life on what other people were doing, how other people were reacting, how other people were behaving, and trying to manage myself in response to them, as opposed to what I have now with my life off the triangle, which is I don't have to manage my responses in relationship to other people. I need to be with myself and tune in and see what's going on for me. Sometimes I was taking on stuff that wasn't even mine to take on. I didn't even have a filter to really put something through to go, wait, this isn't my stuff. I don't even need to engage in this. I don't need to react to this. I didn't even have that awareness. Everything that was coming at me felt like it was a bomb or an explosion or a missile being launched in my direction, and I've definitely felt like I needed to respond or react or to do something. It felt like craziness at times. And maybe to people that knew me or know me still at the time, they saw that. I remember one time having a conversation with my ex-husband, and he said, you know, there you go, being a victim again. And I remember feeling at the time like, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. And it's interesting how people can speak truth to us and we don't hear it. But I was at that time. I didn't have a connection to my own personal power. I really did feel like a victim a lot of times. Oftentimes I would say that the reason that I couldn't do something or execute a particular line of action was because of somebody else's behavior. I didn't really take responsibility for myself. I was really good at kind of saying, okay, this person's responsible and that person's responsible and that person's responsible. But owning my stuff was not something that I was doing on a regular basis. I was not really introspective and reflective on what's my part in this and where is my power, you know, and where does my power lie? Is it within me or is it outside of me? Life was so much harder. It was so much harder. I frequently felt out of control. Even though I tried to externally present to the world that I was in control, internally, I felt very different. So my internal and my external didn't match up. And maybe I was the only one that was aware of that, but I don't think so. I think other people could feel it because we feel energy, right? You guys know this. We can feel people's energy. We can tune in and we can go, okay, something's off, something's not right. I don't really know what it is, but I can feel this. What else? In my relationships were not necessarily healthy or balanced. Again, oftentimes because I was on the triangle, I was attracting people that were also on the triangle. And so it was like this, you know, cat and mouse game. You know, somebody would be the victim and then I would move into the rescuer role, trying to fix and help. And then when that didn't work, then I felt like the victim and I felt like, gosh, nothing I do works. That was a frequent thing that I would say, nothing I do works, nothing I do works. And then I would get angry and frustrated and just kind of throw my hands in the air and go, I'm not going to do anything. Moving into the perpetrator role, you know, sending text messages or emails that were emotional or attacking or blaming in nature. You know, those were a lot of the behaviors that showed up for me. And so I really, really, really am passionate about helping people learn how to get off of the victim triangle because that was the place that I began to clean up my life. That was the place, as my teacher, and I've mentioned this before, you know, he talks about the stages that we go through in adulting. There's the cleanup, the waking up, or the cleanup, the grow up, and the waking up. And my work on the victim triangle was about cleaning up my life and taking responsibility. And when we take responsibility, we also really take our power back. I no longer feel like anybody gets in my way of whatever it is that I want to do. I'm not going to give that power away to somebody. And I can tune in and recognize and see things with a lot more clarity. The other thing too, when I was on the victim triangle, my perspective was really skewed. I would get offended very easily by what other people would say. I've already talked about taking things personally, but I couldn't see what was really going on because I was so clouded. I was looking through the role of the victim, I was looking through the role of the perpetrator, or I was looking through things through the role of the rescuer. And now it's like I have a clear set of lenses that I can see more clearly with. I don't know that we ever really can see ourselves completely with 100% clarity. That's what I do still work on in my work, is continuing to look at myself and to really see how am I showing up in the world. How am I treating other people? Last week, here's an example of what's different. Last week, my son went to his dad's for the week, and him and his dad and his stepmom and stepsister, they were all going on a vacation and spending the week together. Super fun, really excited, all normal, good stuff. And I had all sorts of feelings about it. Nothing in particular. There was nothing wrong. He was, with his family, and that was cool. But I needed to attend to my feelings, which is why I didn't do a video last week. I was able to connect with what I was feeling. I love being a mom, and I love my time with my son. I know how fast it goes. I've got 2 older daughters that, they're adults. They're 18 and 20. It really does go by really fast. And what I could have an awareness around was just that feeling of a little bit of loneliness, missing him, sometimes wondering, what am I going to do to fill my time up? And so I knew how to just attend to my needs. I knew that I needed to go to bed early, to exercise, to really care for myself. And I also knew that I wasn't in a real strong place of clarity to sit down and do a video and put it up online. So I didn't do it. I give myself permission to say, I don't have to get this done right now. And in doing that, I could take care of myself. By the time I got to the weekend, I was feeling so much better. And I didn't create chaos in my life because I didn't push myself into situations that wouldn't have been good for me. I just kind of learned how to let my feelings settle and see what was really there. And what was really there was just, oh, this is a totally normal thing. Like he's with his dad and his family, and that's fine. And just to tune in to taking care of myself. I know how to ask for help and how to get my needs met. And that was another big piece of learning about the triangle, was that oftentimes our needs do not get met. And I read this quote in a book. It's called Attached, the Neuroscience of Adult Attachment. And I love this because it talks about the different types of attachment styles, and that'll be another video. But the author said, we are only as needy as our greatest needs have gone unmet. And when people are on the victim triangle, there is a lot of needy behavior. Why? Because oftentimes our needs went unmet. Whether it was intentional or not, they went unmet. And so we need to learn as adults, how do I meet my needs in healthy ways, not in the unhealthy ways that we try to make ourselves feel better. Shopping, addictions, avoidance, ignoring problems, blaming other people, all that kind of stuff, right? We need to learn how to say, what is it that I need in this moment to do for myself that is going to be nurturing and loving, so that I can fill my own cup up. One of my yoga teachers, she would always say, when our cup is filled, we have more to give. And there was a time in my life when I was on the victim triangle, where I was very needy because I didn't have a full cup. Now my cup is filling up, and it continues to fill up, and I continue to fill it up. And I know that I'm responsible to make sure that it's filled. And I have one right here. But I hope that what I have shared in these videos is helpful. I will be sharing more teachings and the things that have really transformed my life and made huge turnarounds for me. That's what I want to share with you guys. I'm not professing to say that I have it all figured out, because I definitely don't, but I continue to learn, and I continue to be open and receptive. And I think this is really also something that's worth mentioning. I set my setup to have all of these books because these are the things that, if I were to lose everything else, this is like my joy. And I read and I read and I read, and maybe you guys all relate to this too, or can relate to this, that there's so much valuable information out there. And reading these books has brought me incredible wisdom and peace of mind and knowledge and understanding. But here's what it has not brought me. It has not helped me to see my blind spots. And that has been the work that I do in my own therapy sessions and in my own experience. Is she helps to hold a mirror up to me to help me to see the things that are kind of hidden from my view. You know, we talk about it as like that ego work. It's like, help me to see the things that have been hidden from me. Help me to see my shadows. Help me to see the stuff that I can't see, because we can't always see ourselves with clarity. You know, the goal is to learn how to get clearer and clearer, but it really helps when someone can say, hey, this is a pattern. Or like in the beginning when Holly said, you're making everything about you. You're taking other people's behavior personally and then reacting to it. And so it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to do that. So whatever I offer, also know that I don't think that there's anything that can replace good therapy and your own personal work. Yoga is healing. I go to yoga. I'm a yogi. But that helps us to get quiet in our mind, and it helps us to connect with our body and our spirit. And reading books brings in knowledge and wisdom and information. And attending seminars and lectures gets us pumped up and in that energy. But we also need to be able to look at ourselves and connect and see, what are my strengths and what are the areas that I need to really explore and become more acquainted with. You know, the work of getting older, I think, is getting to know ourselves, which is, it's an interesting journey, and it's a really rewarding one. And I hope that you guys will continue to join me and tune in and plug in every Wednesday. So please share this video, comment, share with me what your experiences are. If any of these connect with you, I'd love to know that. You are also welcome to email me and check out my website at riverhealing.com. You can also follow me on Facebook at River Jane Phoenix, and Instagram is also River Jane Phoenix. So I bid you peace, I send you love, and I look forward to connecting next week. Peace and love.